Please give us Western Cape welcome to astronaut extraordinaire, author of Back to Earth, Nicole Stott.
Thank you.
Nicole, we have a Monday motivation that we normally do at this time, and we play motivational pieces to get you right for the week, and you are our Monday motivation this morning.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean, you just walked in and we were all inspired.
Do astronauts
me too, by the way.
get rock star receptions like this? Is this a commonality for you?
It is, yeah. And I don't think it matters who's wearing the blue suit either. It's just the idea of it.
But speaking of that, that is such a cool jacket. You know, I have gone into one of the novelty stores and bought myself a fake NASA hoodie before. But to look at the real thing, that is quite extraordinary.
It's fun to wear, too.
I would wear that like everywhere.
Do you, Nicole, wear that everywhere?
I do not, no. I do not.
Sure. I want to just play one of the launches that you were actually in the spacecraft. I mean, when you're looking for cool audio, it's always a rocket launching off into space. Now, listen to how cool this sounds.
20 seconds. The sound suppression water system has been activated, protecting Discovery and the launch pad from acoustical energy waves. Go for main engine start. We have main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and the final liftoff of Discovery. A tribute to the dedication, hard work, and pride of America's space shuttle team. The shuttle has cleared the tower.
Discovery. This is Mission Control Houston. The space shuttle now rolling over onto its back with a 7-minute ride into orbit. Discovery now making one last reach for the stars. Discovery's engines are now throttling down as the orbiter passes through the area of maximum pressure, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it goes supersonic.
Discovery Houston, you are go at throttle up.
Oh, now that gives me goosebumps. You were in that craft. I mean, anything can happen at that point. Is the most scary time the takeoff? Is that where the most can go wrong?
Yeah, I think in general that's where the most can go wrong. But I think crew members are anxious. I don't think there's a fear. There's a respect, for what you're about to do. And I heard you guys talking earlier about the new Fast and Furious movie coming out, and it's like, man, if they had 7 million pounds of thrust, maybe going through those buildings and flying that way would be for real. But but yeah, it's a pretty impressive place to be. I think the fear I had was for my family watching me do it. It's a lot easier to strap in having been trained than to watch somebody you love strap in to fly to space.
Yeah. I mean, what do you have to do for that kid being driven into school this morning going, I want to be an astronaut? What do you need? Is it certain subjects, certain marks at school? I know there's a lot of health that comes into it as well.
Yeah, I mean, for NASA, we definitely have the school requirements, right, and the general career requirements, and I think a lot of that is just to narrow it down because so many people want to apply to do it. But you need to like working with other people. That's a big deal. And as far as school goes, maths. You guys had a little Monday morning math thing going on today, and yeah, just realizing that subjects like math and science and engineering and technology, and even I would say the arts, we call it STEAM, are the things that allow us to solve the most challenging problems around us, and to kind of bring that together in what you study at school and what you want to do, as a job. And then that can lead you to a path of being able to pick up the pen and, well, maybe we don't do that anymore. Get on the computer and fill out the application.
But now, what sort of stress test do they put your body through to be able to handle the necessary G-forces? I mean, that centrifuge, they still stick you in that spins around at a rate of knots.
Yeah, they do. We do some familiarization of that. I don't think we don't spend a lot of time in those, but it's kind of fun to get to do that kind of stuff. And I think the general expectation is that you are going to stay in shape and you are going to be able to manage those things. I would say outside the centrifuge, the most challenging physical thing we had to do was train to do a spacewalk. Because, unlike in space where nothing weighs anything, down here on Earth, those big white spacesuits weigh about 300 pounds. So they're lifting you on a crane and putting you into a swimming pool to try to offload that. And it's pressurized inside. So every movement you make is against the pressure of the suit. And most of that is with your hands. And you're just trying to physically get yourself into a position that would be so easy to do in space. But in a swimming pool with gravity pulling you down, it's pretty challenging.
Now, all these very nice questions about, science and mathematics and that, but there's one question that will always get asked you. I'm sure you get asked this at every dinner table. I think you know what question it is. People want to know how you go toilet up there. So do they have like a vacuum cleaner? What's the story? With zero gravity.
Also, do you need training for that?
Toilet training.
On
Do you
Earth
train in the
before
pool?
you go out?
Because I've done a lot of toilet training in swimming pools before.
Have you?
Yes.
Yeah, have we all? Yes. It's kind of cool because this whole human in human spaceflight thing. You got to train for how you be a human in doing human spaceflight. And yes, going to the potty is one of those things. And you mentioned the vacuum. I kind of joke that everything about going to space has to do with the vacuum of space. And number one, big long hose, yellow funnel on the end. You kind of float over it. A lot easier for the gentlemen in the room here, but let me just tell you, as we always do, the women figure it out, and it's all about alignment and speed, really. But you pull the cover off the funnel, and you flick the switch on, and it's like a vacuum that is going to pull the liquid waste through the
really
hose.
is.
Yeah. And then the same thing, number two, we're just going to use the
numbers.
The numbers. For the solid waste, it's a lot like camping. Big metal can with a lid on top. You fill it, once it's filled up, it's capped off, and then it goes into a cargo vehicle that burns up in space. Probably the cleanest way to dispose of trash.
Right.
And again, you turn the switch on, and a nice little vacuum flow gets going. Yeah, alignment and speed tend to be the key two words in it all. But it's so cool because it's like everything up there, where everything floats and you're moving in 3 dimensions. It's all different, but it's not necessarily more difficult. It's just different. And that makes it, all part of the adventure as well.
Where did the curiosity start for you? I mean, I know a lot of little boys and girls watch space movies. They see it as like this really cool, sexy profession. You actually did it. But where did that curiosity start with you?
I actually think it started with parents who shared what they loved with me. And that was everything from being a 6 or 7-year-old-ish kid watching that first moon landing. They could have kept me in bed, but we were in front of the black and white TV. And then later in life, just growing up, my dad loved flying and built and flew small airplanes as a hobby, and hanging out at the airport, wanting to know how things fly. And I just kind of discovered, man, if you want to know how airplanes fly, why would you not want to know how rocket ships fly?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nicole, so that very first moon landing.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There are so many people that say that happened in a Hollywood movie theater, in a Hollywood. So tell us now. I mean,
no, it did not happen in a studio. And, I have one of my dear friends and mentors who worked through the whole Apollo program. He's the guy who encouraged me to pick up the pen and fill out the application for astronaut office. He's one of the people that was critical in the whole Apollo 13, Houston, we have a problem, finding the solutions for that. He always says, he's like, we were barely smart enough to do it for real. We could never have figured out how to fake it. And so, and I'll just stop there because it's kind of like namaste.
We love namaste.
Now, this must be another question that you get a lot. So you spent how many days at a time on your various missions did you spend in the International Space Station? So the journey back, and the time in there. How long are you away for?
Total time was 104 days, and it was a long duration flight and a short duration flight. So my first flight, I went up on Space Shuttle Discovery, spent a little over 3 months on the station, came home on Atlantis. And then about a year and a half later, I flew on the final flight of Discovery. That was a launch sequence that you heard there. And we were only on the station for 2 weeks, which I will
Okay.
never complain about 2 weeks in space, but I wanted 3 more months.
So, now that you are retired from going up in spacecraft, I remember your country announced their new 3-letter agency called Space Force, which is like the police of the outer space. Is that actually happened yet?
Yeah, the Space Force as a as an entity now is in place, and but they've always been there as part of the Air Force Space Command. So now they've just kind of separated them out as
Because
another entity.
that was fascinating when there was that project. Remember, there was that meteorite or asteroid that was heading our way. But when they say close shave, it's like 1 million miles away. And they wanted to hit it with a rocket to see if they could shift it off course in case something is coming for a direct hit.
Right.
And they managed to shift it off its course.
That was one of the coolest things I have ever seen. It was called the DART mission.
The DART mission.
DART, yeah, which is kind of, that's a great name for it. And yeah, talk about bullseye. Really beautiful to watch that happen. Yeah, and it shifted it enough that if it was something that would have come, we would have intercepted paths, that it would have helped that not happen.
So that was mathematics in action.
That was totally mathematics in
Yeah.
action. I love it the way you guys described this morning, how it's just, logic and solving problems. I mean,
Yeah.
really, that's what it's all about. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So we've got some questions coming in here on the WhatsApp telephone. Here's one. for
Morning,
you.
guys. Just a quick question for our guests. Do they ever see things they cannot explain?
Like aliens, UFOs.
Like aliens. Well, I didn't see anything like that. I saw things that surprised me. Although I'll just tell you right off the bat, as astronauts, we joke, well, maybe they're just really, really small and we don't see them. But, I saw things that surprised me that I would have thought, yeah, there it is. That's the music that was in my head when I saw it, right?
Tell us.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to tell us?
I wish I had something to tell you. But I saw like this streak of light below me one night when I was floating in front of the window looking back towards Earth. And I'm like, oh, and you get that little kind of thought in your mind, and floated down to the other end of the station to ask one of my crewmates what the heck was that. And they're like, oh, meteor coming in, shooting star kind of thing. And I'm like, well, it'd be nice if somebody would have told me that before I got here that I'd see this. Because we get so used to looking up for things like that, right?
Now, have any of your colleagues, the Buzz Aldrins, the Neil Armstrongs, and everyone else, seen anything?
I don't know what it was. There have been people who have reported seeing things that they couldn't explain, but I don't know that we've ever, gone down the path to say, oh, that was a unidentified flying object or for sure an alien.
Area 51, do you have thoughts on that?
I know that it exists, and I visited not the area itself, but Roswell, and there's a lot of really, funny looking alien dolls around and stuff.
Out of these shiny caravans.
Yeah.
Now, Nicole, what I wanted to ask you, I watch a lot of space movies. $1 billion business seems to be one that comes out every year. Which is the most accurate space movie that's been released? I'm sure obviously you watch with a keen eye to see they got that right, or they could have done better there. Which one's your favorite and most accurate?
Well, I think as far as trying to, really speak to the science of it, The Martian did a pretty good job,
Really?
and they were very clear about where they threw the drama in or where it just wouldn't have been possible, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the space movies that I love are ones like, and they're comedies, they're ones like Galaxy Quest or Rocket Man. It's an older comedy about going to Mars. And I think it's because it's the interaction between the people. That's just really funny to me.
Now, here's a little thing before we jump into news. I don't know if you know, but on the spacecraft, there's a South African invention. Apparently, it is because of this invention, space flight was able to happen. 𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗶. Have you ever heard of that?
Say it again.
𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗴. It's on your spacecraft.
I will look it up.
It holds those tiles
Oh, really?
on for when you come back into Earth.
All right.
South African invention.
I am going to look that up.
We
They
did
don't
that.
call it that. You guys might want to let them know they're not calling it the right name.
It's generally used for keeping windows in the window frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, multi-purpose. Bringing it back to Earth, right?
We just got another quick question here on the telephone.
I'd like to ask Nicole what it's like when you come back from 100 days in space, like when you're on a ship for a month or 2 weeks, or even shorter than that. You've got your sea legs and you're a bit wobbly. How do they prepare you for that? Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know that they really prepare you, other than, talking to your friends about what they experienced. You feel really, really heavy. I mean, to the point of where you have to think about standing up straight, holding your head up, because you haven't had to do that for however long you've been floating in space. And I mean, I remember feeling like the bottom half of my leg weighed 100 pounds. Like, how am I going to? And they take you straight into the gym to want to start the rehab. And I remember there's this one little activity of, I call them Barbie doll cones, because they were 2 inches high. That was, and they wanted you to hop over it and then walk and then hop and then walk sideways. I'm like, it literally, cracking up, took me 10 minutes to convince myself that I'd be able to hop over this little 2-inch cone. And then once you do it, it's so cool. It's like the little hairs in your ear and your brain and your body just start recalibrating to figure out that, yeah, I can do that. I'm back in gravity and I'll adjust to this as well.
That's amazing.
And what do you eat while you're up there?
All kinds of food. On the International Space Station, it's international. We have food from all of our partner countries. But for the most part, it's a lot like camping food. And then we have to rehydrate most of what we eat.
And
Nothing
can you
really-
bring your own hot sauce or?
They have it there
Peri-peri?
for you. They have all kinds of, all the liquid sauces are there for you. And of course, we don't have salt and pepper like in a shaker, because, Matt, imagine salt and pepper just floating around and getting in your eyes or breathing it in, that kind of thing. So they have liquid versions of everything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure. Our guest this morning in studio, veteran of space, Nicole Stott. And I don't mean that by age, I mean that by you going up to space is like us driving to work every day for you.
If only.
An astronaut, Nicole Stott, in studio here with us this morning. Nicole, we've got so many questions coming through on the WhatsApp telephone here. Let's just field one more here.
Hi there, astronaut. Is there a possibility that Mars will become Earth in 40 years, 50 years' time?
Yes, I think that's the plan. We're looking at, with the Artemis missions, we're looking at going back to the moon. And that will happen with people next year, orbiting the moon like we did with Apollo 8, then leading to the next Artemis mission, which will have us putting boots on the moon again, first woman, first person of color to set foot on the moon, which will have us on the moon permanently settling there, but then with the goal of getting to Mars within that time frame, within 30 years, and establishing human presence there as well. I'm looking forward to that Star Trek future, right? Where we're going to have to get ourselves out of this solar system too.
I'm putting my hand up first to go to the moon.
You ready to go?
I want out of this place.
Nah.
This place, this current world we live in, I've had enough. I'll go and be the first to colonize the moon.
What is your perspective of Earth when you are up there in space and you see us in the distance?
Yeah, it's this reality check of, oh my gosh, I live on a planet in space.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like the who and where we all are in space together. And after working as a crew on this mechanical life support system that we, purposely put in space to mimic what Earth does for us naturally, you look back at it and you're like, it's awesome, it's wonderful, everything's interconnected, and you realize, man, if we could just behave like crewmates, not passengers, we have the power to create a future for all life on Earth that's as beautiful as it looks from space. And, just start treating it like a spaceship.
Right.
Because when I fly to Joburg, I look at all the roofs of the houses and I can see who needs painting, you know?
Yeah.
You're judgy up there, Darren.
Yeah, you look and go, hey, Brazil, your grass needs cutting.
There is a little of that, you know, and there's this like, I'm sure when you're flying too, you look and you see the differences over time as well. And it's pretty impressive to be able to look at the planet and say, oh, you know, those patterns, those colors, those are the deserts of Africa versus the deserts of Australia. And, you know, these atolls in the South Pacific that look like footprints, you know, across the ocean. And South Africa, I can tell you, it's kind of like where I'm from, Florida, where you look at it from space and there is no denying it. Once you see it, like, oh, that's Florida. Oh, that's South Africa. It's just the shape, the colors. It just presents itself to you that way.
And you know, Nicole, there's been some research now for that mission to Mars. Now, just to give you some context, right? Mars is 280 million kilometers away. A flight from Cape Town to Joburg is 1,400 kilometers. So, Mars is going back and forth, Joburg, Cape Town, Joburg, Cape Town, Joburg, Cape Town, 200,000 times.
Hectic.
Uh-huh.
I get tired on a 2-hour flight.
That's a hell of a long... How long would it take to get to Mars?
Well, right now with the rockets that we have, they're saying 6 to 9 months. And
You could have a whole baby.
Yeah, you could. And I don't know that you'd want to. And it's not going to be in the Hollywood spaceship, right? Right off the bat. It's going to be in a relatively small space. I mean, I think they had to thinking about having to put the toilet in the bulkhead of the spaceship. So, you know, I mean, I love the distance example you gave because as humans right now, the furthest that we've traveled is to the moon, which is 250,000 miles. I don't know the, kilometers, but
It's about 400,000 kilometers.
yeah, and it's 35 million miles at the closest to get to Mars. So in that 6 to 9 months, you are going to lose sight of Earth. Really, Earth is not going to look like Earth out the window anymore. So what we do for the humans in that spacecraft, is it music? Is it art? Is it the Star Trek holodeck? I mean, I keep coming back to that. But I mean, something that allows you to carry that humanity with you too, in addition to whatever checks you're going to have to do on your spaceship each day.
You would get right to the end of Netflix.
You'd finish Netflix.
Completely, yeah.
You opted for some painting. What were you painting up there?
3 Bollywood movies.
Yeah, I would love to see that, the dancing inside of the spaceship too. I did paint in space. I brought up a little watercolor kit and painted this beautiful view of Earth, this little chain of islands on the northern coast of Venezuela called Las Rocas. It looks like a wave, like somebody had already reached down and painted a wave on the ocean. And yeah, as humans, we want to bring that human side with us. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think don't put your spacesuit away yet, because there's some new research that's come out. I don't know if you've seen this, Nicole, but for that mission to Mars, they've said, all the international space organizations have conclusively said that for that mission, women would be the best astronauts for the job. The reason why they say that is because women are more efficient than men. Plus, they exude less energy and need fewer resources in comparison. Women consume less oxygen, produce less carbon dioxide, and require less food than men too. Now, you mentioned the space issues that you're going to have on that mission. They have smaller frames compared to men, and they believe that an all-female crew will take up just less space in the capsule in general, therefore create more room for things like support systems needed for the journey.
And they'll save money. $158 million, which is the biggie.
Oh.
Would you put your hand up for that mission?
If I could come back.
Because is there no guarantee? You sign a waiver, you might never come back.
I don't even know if they would have a sign a waiver. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the moon. I would love to go to the moon. I would love to go to the moon, do the work on the moon, establish that presence there, help get people to Mars.
But
I think, yeah.
With that Mars mission, is that the thing? You go, but you're never coming back.
I don't think that's NASA's plan. I think NASA would be always looking at a return trip for crews and then, rotating through. And then eventually, in the future, what we would be doing is having people that are living, working permanently on Mars. Once you have it, Mars is not welcoming us, just like the moon. It's like we're going to basically have to turn both of those places into a spaceship to be able to live there. And once we have that infrastructure in place, I think you would have people living there permanently.
Nicole Stott, NASA astronaut. It's been fascinating talking to you this morning. I could chat for another hour with you. We've had messages saying, is this going to be a podcast later? Yes, it will be. Thank you so much for your time.
Happy to be here, and I hope I see some people out at the Living Maths programs that are going on across the schools and community throughout the next week.
Well,
check out the website.
We've got 10 double tickets to go and meet Nicole in person, which is just a great photo for your Instagram, 16, 17, and 18th. Just go to livingmaths.com. All the details are up there. And go and meet Nicole and be part of one of your talks.
That'd
Fascinating
be awesome.
stuff.
Thanks for having me.
Nicole Stott, NASA astronaut. Thank you very much.
KFM